So in this video, we're going to talk about when you first log in, the do's and the don'ts, and what you should be looking out for. So there is a process when you first log in. You can't just go in and automatically create a business manager and link up ad accounts, create pages, run ads. I wish it was that simple, but Facebook's a lot smarter. So our first login attempt, we always want to type the username and password and never copy and paste from what the account seller or provider provides us. So he'll obviously provide you with the username and password in a text file, and you never want to just copy and paste that exact username and password. And the reason being is because of the simple fact that Facebook knows if something is being copied and pasted. So if somebody's copying and pasting a username and password, what does that tell you? That means that they don't know the actual login details by heart, so it's probably not their account. So Facebook's able to tell when you copy and paste. Don't copy and paste, because that's a red flag immediately. And if your account does get taken down or have a barrier of entrance, like they ask for more identification to enter the account, then it's probably because you went ahead and copied and pasted. If not, you didn't follow the other directions correctly. So when you log in, spend about 30 minutes or so browsing around like you would as a normal user. So the whole premise of how this works and your first login and every login after is you want to act like a normal user. If you don't act like a normal user and just act like somebody who knows exactly what they're doing and what their main goal is, which is to use the ad account, then they're going to go ahead and more than likely restrict the account, ban it, whatever you want to call it. So for the first login, just spend time browsing around. Just act like a normal user. So spend 30 minutes or so, and we're going to talk about the warm-up process in the upcoming videos. But again, for now, just spend 30 minutes when you first log in. And you can leave videos in the background playing, and they can autoplay as well. Now, I'm not too sure if autoplaying works as well anymore, because sometimes videos stop scrolling. I don't know if that's due to Facebook stopping, preventing what we're doing, or if it is just a problem with multi-login. I'm not 100% certain on that, but what I can say is the most efficient way for me to go ahead and actually get browsing time is to share my virtual assistant I'm able to create them an account inside of multi-login, and they're able to see the browsers as well, and they're the ones who do all the browsing, and it saves. So if they browse and build cookies in that profile, and then I open it on my end, it'll go ahead and have the same cookies and browser data that my virtual assistant had from the other side of the world. The only problem is if you're using a MacBook, they need to use a MacBook as well. If you're using a Windows computer, they need to use a Windows computer to do this, or else multi-login won't work, because your device will be a Mac and you have the profile set up for Mac, and they're on a Windows computer and they try to access it, but they can't because it's set up specifically for a Mac, right? So keep that in mind. So you don't need to engage with posts or anything of the sorts. Just browse around and pretend like you're looking around like a normal user would. Just pretend like you're reading stuff. Maybe highlight something. Click on an ad from time to time. Do stuff that normal browsers would do, right? So you have to act as normal as possible. If you don't act as normal as possible and you act like a bot, then you're more than likely going to get hit with a restriction on the account. So the more natural you can make it look like an actual human is browsing it all the time, the better, right? So you don't need hours on end, but what I would suggest is having at least, and we'll talk about this in the warm-up process, at least 7 to 10 hours of warm-up on an IP address over the course of 5 to 7 days. So we'll talk about this in the warm-up process as well, like I just said. But when you're doing this, you're going to want to go ahead and engage. So, you don't need to engage, but you want to engage as in highlight some stuff. You don't need to like posts. You don't need to comment. You don't need to like photos. You just need to browse, look, click, act like a normal user from time to time. So building cookie data. So I talked about cookies a little bit. So when you're on Facebook via the strategy that I'm teaching you right now, they start building what's known as a user profile based on your cookies, on your browser cookies. So since we are using multi-login, it creates a brand new browser for us with no cookies and a brand new fingerprint. And essentially, what you want to do is start building cookies or a user profile as fast as you humanly can. So browse on Google, news sites, websites in general that have Facebook sharing icons and comments embedded on it, because that sends data back to Facebook of what type of person you are. So I'm going to go through these one by one in live examples after I'm done presenting this so I can show you what I mean. So cookie data makes you look more legit. If you only have been on Facebook, they'll be able to see with your cookie history, and that could be a red flag. So here's an idea. Like I said before, I have a virtual assistant every morning log into my Zoom, or if they have the same computer as I do, like a Mac, then I let them use multi-login. But for the most part, depending on the situation and depending on what type of proxy I'm using. If it's a static proxy, they can do it themselves. If it's a residential proxy where I'm paying for every single gigabyte that I use, then I make them use Zoom, and I do a little bit different strategy, which we won't go over because that's a little bit more advanced. Well, it's way more advanced. And I created a special software just for me. But you don't need to worry about that. So what I do is I typically have my assistant, one of my virtual assistants, come in, log into Zoom, control my screen, and I have a computer on the side just letting them work on it all day. Maybe for 4 or 5 hours, maybe for 2-3 hours, depending on how much browsing time I need throughout various different profiles to build cookies. And warning, do not build cookie data on Luminati/Bright Data this way. It's very, very expensive. What you should do is you should build cookie data on a regular Google Chrome and then export that cookie data. Like I said, that is way more advanced, way, way more advanced. If there's a request to go ahead and learn that advanced strategy with my custom software, I'll give it to you guys, but please put it in the Facebook group and let me know, because I don't want to confuse people about this, because I can only imagine the stuff I've already taught here has gone over some people's heads. So again, don't get analysis paralysis here. It's very simple on what we're doing. But let me dive in a little bit deeper. So on first login, and I have right here, I have the login again. It's the very next day, as a matter of fact. I'm recording this the following day. And when I logged in initially. So I have the profile here. And what I did was I just left it open. I clicked on watch. And literally I just clicked the first video, lowered my volume, and I just let it play. And I'll just browse around like a normal person. And so, you can just do this, do the following, right? Click on a link. Maybe you can, let's find something that has some text in it. Let's see. You could do this. Thank you, come visit. Okay. Don't take any actions. Maybe look at something for a little bit. Take a look if it's sponsored, right? Go right here, click on the sponsored ad. There we go. So this is interesting. So this is an ad that, ironically, we can go ahead and use as well. So I'm actually going to share this, and I'm going to copy the link for a later time because I want this specific funnel, ironically. So again, just act natural. Act natural here, right? You don't need to engage with posts. However, we do want to build cookie data. So take a look at this. So to really drive this point home, I want to show you something. You see my profile Cookie Monster on my regular Google Chrome? I have this little plugin that you have to manually install, and it downloads all the cookies. So if I wanted all the cookies, I can click all cookies, and take a look at this. If I open the cookies file, it shows me all the browsing history on this computer. So it's a fresh profile that has browsing history. But what exactly does that mean? Well, if I go ahead and I take a look inside of the settings, right, and I go to privacy and security, I go to cookies and other site data. I can go ahead and allow all cookies or block third-party cookies in incognito. It's fine. Over here, we could leave this, but take a look at this. See all cookies in site history? See all this? It builds a browser profile. Now, if we just take a look inside of multi-login, and I go to settings, right, and then I go to privacy and security, I think it is, cookies and other site data, all cookies. You see this? There's barely any cookies in here. But what there are is a slow buildup. And we need more and more and more cookies being built up. This profile is where I have my virtual assistant log in, and they start going on CNN and clicking on ads and looking through advertorials and pretending to purchase stuff. They'll go to like Macy's or Fashion Nova, and they'll add stuff to cart. They'll never check out. They'll just add stuff to cart to build up the Facebook pixel. So if you also go to websites like CNN that do the following, let's just click on something right here. If you see, really quickly, let this all load, give it a few moments. But if you see around here somewhere, what is this, a share? So you see that share button? You see that Facebook is right here, right? See how Facebook is right here? If I were to go ahead and just browse on here, Facebook is embedded into this page, which means that Facebook collects data and knows that I'm interested in politics that are related to CNN or Miami, Florida building collapse. I'm interested in stuff like that. It builds a social profile. So if we go to the bottom, follow CNN, it's down here as well. It starts building, even though these are just little widgets that are embedded, it puts a cookie inside of your browser. So let's just go to Mimic multi-login. Mimic is multi-login's browser. So I'm going to CNN, right? So let's watch as we start building up some of these cookies. So right over here, I don't know exactly if it builds in real time. I never checked. So it looks like it's starting to build up CNN. There we go. 27 cookies were just put in to CNN, right? So if we just take a look at CNN, where is that one more time? Oh goodness, I just lost it. 37 cookies now. So again, a lot of times it's hidden, but FBP, I don't know what FBP is, but it looks like Facebook, right? So anything that might have, that might be Facebook related. So FBP definitely looks like it's Facebook related. I can't confirm that, I'm not a developer, so I might be wrong. But somewhere in here, there's browsing data that's taken and built, and it is building a profile for you, around you. And when you go to Facebook, Facebook reads that data that's in here, that's in privacy and security. Now I'm going really in depth just to kind of drive my points home. And that's why it's important to build cookie data. So you want to browse on Google, news sites, websites. If you really want to, if you're using a static IP from Instant Proxy, right? You're not paying per gigabyte here. What you can do is you can start browsing so many different websites. You can use this browser as your normal browser. Just keep in mind it's for your Facebook profile. And you can search whatever you want, you know, weight loss diet, or let's go keto, let's go weight loss diet. All right. So we can take a look at and start building up a profile that's interested in ketogenic diets, and it'll reflect off of Facebook. As long as we go somewhere that has the ability to have social shares and Facebook embedded on their profile. See that? So Facebook's right down here. So on Healthline. So let me go back into settings. And I'm curious. I've never really looked too deep into this like I am right now. But let's just search for, does Healthline give me? Healthline, 19 cookies. All right. So what do we have around here? Anything that might attribute to Facebook maybe? Doesn't look like it, but maybe somewhere in here, G ads, Google ads, public ID, ad blur. So it's building a profile with ads already. Let's take a look at other health. Because again, like I said, I'm not too sure exactly what what they're building up. Let's just see if I type in FB face, anything with Facebook. Facebook 9 cookies. So I can see Facebook already has cookies implanted and it follows me along. But you get the idea here. So let me click on a low carb meal plan. Maybe there's some social sharing buttons around here. Anything that has Facebook comments embedded in it as well is even better. So this is how we're going to start building up our profiles. We can browse inside of the multi-login Mimic browser. But like I said, if you are using rotating residential from Bright Data or Smart Proxy or somewhere that you're paying per gigabyte, do not do this because this can get very expensive. But if you're using Instant Proxy, like I'm using for this particular login, for this particular profile, then build up a user profile as best as you can, because that will be something massive for you, especially to show Facebook, hey, look, we're legitimate, or excuse me, this account is legitimate. We browse all the time. We're just not on Facebook, right? We're not only just dedicating our time to Facebook. So we're building up all these cookies, and this is good. So as you can see, there's cookies now. We have a list of different cookies that are being built. Before it was so small. Now we're building up a browsing profile, which is great. Facebook's going to love us for that. So with that being said, That's how you go ahead and conduct your first login and understand how cookies work. So that was really important that you understand how it's structured, because the more understanding you have of what Facebook looks at, the better it is for you in the long term to help keep these accounts alive and you keep advertising. So again, with that being said, I'll see you in the next video. We're going to talk about AdCard and Amex hacking. I'll see you there.